Okay, you're being a little too
Like,
reasonable
does it
right
climb
now,
up
Chris.
on its back and like?
So maybe not
is there
a
a little-
childhood pet, but
Is it like draping an earthworm on a chihuahua?
In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Katherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Chris.
And we are the Anidorks. These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
We now are in chapter 36. We've made it 3 whole chapters, my dudes, and we wake up with a ringing in our heads because we don't have ears, or we do. We do.
That
have
laughter
ears.
was ringing in our head.
Yes, the laughter was ringing in our heads. I can't hear the frequencies of laughter anymore.
Good.
y-
Good.
I'm damn it. I was gonna say titilitis for titter or something. I don't know. Like,
But it's too
tinnitus. It's too
Yeah.
titiful. It doesn't work. Anyway,
Elfagor,
All
he recognizes...
Elfy?
Elfy?
Who?
Sorry.
thank you.
Why so formal? Elfy recognizes what's around him here. He asks himself, home? Am I home? He stares out at a therent tree. Have we heard about therent trees before?
I think we have heard. I'm gonna check annotated.net.
The trunk,
but
the branches, the vines. Impossible! It was Hala Fala, the oldest of the therent trees in the woods near my home.
Boy, it sure was, buddy.
Oh, nope. Therent tree is totally new.
Really?
This is the one. It is the one time in the whole series that it gets used.
Father
And
had
this-
shown me this tree when I was just a very small child. It was my garabah, my guide tree.
Oh, a lot of lore.
Yeah.
It's making me think, though, of Into the Woods, Cinderella at the tree that is also her mom.
Yes.
Like-
That's my favorite part of
Tree.
that show. Ask the tree, and you shall get your wish.
Now we can't stop here. We have to keep going because I ground my hooves into the grass, taking a sample taste.
I can't with this taste.
Yeah.
This taste. You say they can't taste. You say that taste is new to them, and then they do nothing but taste. There's a whole
They don't
bunch.
taste once. They don't
this-
taste twice. They keep tasting. They have Costco
tasting.
samples of flavor. Like
Yeah, it's really nuts. And I think my favorite thing is just now every time I imagine them walking on the ground, there's just slobber under where their
no.
hooves just were from the tongues licking
you're
the
right.
ground.
We've talked about hoof tongue. We've talked
No
about
hoof tongue.
hoof teeth.
Hoof
It's
saliva.
real. Hoof tongue is
Hoof
real.
spit.
Yeah, hoof spit is an important part of hoof digestion,
Yeah,
Eddie.
yeah.
I mean, Miranda,
Now, how do they get
Eddie
the
agrees
food
with me.
from the bottom of the hoof up through the leg? It has to involve spit, right? Like there's got to.
It involves pacing.
I'm telling
think
you,
it's spit
it's
and
like
pacing.
a celery stick.
No, I know it's musculature that it's like the esophagus
and lubricated
It just,
musculature, I think.
Big time,
Yeah.
big time. Yes, the Andalites are a well-lubed species.
Going home.
You know what? No, I'm gonna say this sample taste. I think it's the last taste we get this book. I'm calling it here. We're not gonna hear about taste again.
100% sure you're
Are
wrong.
you certain? Are you certain? Or are you being sarcastic
am.
like
I
Loren
am,
just
but let's just
explained
go
to
along
me?
with
Okay,
it, yeah.
cool. Okay, cool. All right.
I'm sorry, I haven't hung out with Loren enough to understand.
I'm really bad at sarcasm.
There's this really great line in an episode of The Wild Thornberrys, or it might be the movie, and it's Debbie, the older sister, who's like super punk. One of my favorite things is repeatedly she's shown sitting at a table by their RV ripping her jeans. And she says something, and Nigel Thornberry, voiced, of course, by Tim Curry, says, it's like, oh, something. And she goes, Dad, have you completely lost your ability to detect sarcasm? And he goes, I'm not sure I ever had it, dear. And it's just like...
I find that really relatable.
I think we actually get a nice moment here, though, like a nice character moment.
Yeah,
with
this is
Alfagor.
amazing. Yeah, this ritual with the garabah.
Named Hala Fala.
Named Hala Fala, right. It's amazing. He starts to confess to the garabah.
He touches.
No?
He touches.
Tells
he
him
touches
everything.
the bark.
Yeah.
He hears the.
And the trees, he explains to us that the trees don't exactly use words, but some do actually. But the words take a very long time.
Only
to
a
say.
handful of trees had ever used words, he said. And I'm like, how many trees can you fit in those little Andalite hands?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, Elfie's been with a lot of trees by this point, I think. Like,
That's true.
It's true, and we're pro
Yeah.
that on this
Yeah, yeah,
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Play the field,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Do we? I'm just.
Play the orchard.
How do you know you
Okay.
have the right garabah if you don't?
All right, so hang on though. Listen. We've talked before. We've got CJ sent us an email that said something about it. That K Applegate liked to base like made up words on like things that were going on, and I'm just saying that this could be a halal falafel made with garbanzo beans.
Oh my god! It really.
In fact, it probably was.
Frankly, it sounds delicious.
I'm hungry. I understand why you
yeah.
would start naming things after the food that you're eating. Yeah, I like that that Hala Fala has
Hala
a
Fala.
strange, slow mind.
You know what's crazy to me is
What?
we're doing this podcast where we read these books slower than she actually wrote them.
She has to write them quickly. Yeah,
What's a button?
we've already thought about them a lot more than they've thought about the entire series. So. And I think they would own that, actually. Like,
It's unbelievable.
she
yeah.
looked out the window to come up with names and just saw what was in the halal
Yeah, she just
falafel
saw a falafel cart. Like, she was like, falafels. Those are made of chickpeas. You can call chickpeas garbanzo beans.
Yeah.
Even though he's apologizing to the tree and telling it about all the horrible things that had happened, it could not. He then goes on to say it could not change what had happened, and it could not even allow him to claim.
It couldn't forgive him. It couldn't forgive him for what he'd done. But there is a ritual for forgiveness. Like, Andalites love rituals.
Thank you.
And he's crying, too. I think I'm going to step back
Sobbing.
a bit just because I liked this moment. And then after all that
Wait a minute. Where does it say he's crying? Where specifically?
It says he's sobbing.
after he says, "I'm home," I whispered to Hala Fala.
I broke down.
I sobbed, I cried. Okay.
I broke down.
I just wanna call attention to this actually, because later he
Tear
will
ducts?
say water comes from Loren's eyes.
Well, it's dry
He's
sobbing.
upset about something.
Dry sobbing.
He's Andalite sobbing, which involves tears coming out of his leg pits.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
The leg pit. We haven't even reached that point of anatomy yet.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a tender point. You can just give it a little tickle.
tickle. Yeah.
A little tickle.
Nowhere near the rump, which we'll learn about in a moment.
Love me some rump roast.
Yeah.
I think it's. Did they say rump? They did.
They did.
Oh my
Can
god.
I-
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I want to be clear. Rump is a perfectly acceptable term
Yes.
to use for the rear end of a horse.
Yeah.
Like, it's a perfectly
Now,
fine thing
but when
to
you
say.
refer
but-
to your own rump, it's a little bit
Yeah.
different. And someone touching your rump, whoa!
What am I, a piece of meat? Anyway.
Okay, can I was trying to read the touching moment, so.
Oh, go for it.
And then after all that had happened, I broke down, I sobbed, I cried. I told my guide tree everything in a rush of disjointed emotion. Of course, not even a garabah can understand stories of space travel, of aliens, of wars, and terrible decisions, but it could hear my shame. It could hear despair for poor, doomed Arbron. It could hear my cries of pain. For all I had seen, it heard my fear. The garabah could not change what had happened, and it could not tell me that I was forgiven or that all would be well now. I knew the ritual of forgiveness. I have made right everything that can be made right. I have learned everything that can be learned. I have sworn not to repeat my error, and now I claim forgiveness. But I had not yet made right everything that could be made right. I had not yet learned to understand my own mistakes. I was not ready to swear I would not repeat those mistakes. Forgiveness for all of my terrible failings were still a long way off. And I feel like this is actually more emotional vulnerability than we usually get with the main cast of characters.
It totally is. And then the line that comes right after that is also nice. It's, but the garabah, the tree named Hala Fala, heard me, heard my shame and rage. And being heard helped.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Therapy
So
in the
remember
90s, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And it's from a tree.
From a tree therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Forest bathing.
Now that we've done this ritual, even though it was unsuccessful and not quite complete, and we're still in the middle of our journey and our hero's arc, we're trying to figure out where we are.
Yes.
Because it looks very familiar.
And also
but this
when.
tree, yes, great point. This tree is so old that it, even though it's familiar, knowing that we just touched the time matrix, we could be anywhere in time. And then he realizes that all of this has like sort of a Disney tinge to it as well. There's like kafit birds in the bushes fluttering about, and there's these
Hoobers.
animals called hoobers jumping on springy tendrils with comically bulging eyes. Like, and
I picture Sproink. Is it Sproink, the Pokemon? It is the Spoink.
here we go. Spoink.
Oh, that is it.
Very
That's
good.
it.
Very good.
Now,
Yeah,
but the eyes
yeah,
just
very
need to
good.
bulge.
Yeah, they need.
Painfully.
I remembered the bulging thing on its head. I think
Yeah,
is
yeah,
why
yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, give it an eye infection. All right, so, but he realizes that he may actually be home, that everything is familiar enough, and he starts to run home.
Yeah.
To where, and what does he call it? He calls it the Scoop.
Yeah.
The Scoop,
The
yes,
Scoop
his family's
is
Scoop.
the name of his family's domicile.
He also says,
like bears live in dens, Andalite lives in Scoop.
It's easy to feel like we have a more adult narrator here because something about Elfang, or maybe it's that he is so much more prepared for what's happening, but he's not an adult, but he feels like, it does feel like we're getting like an older teenager compared with our narrators. But then when he says he's running over a stream, he says, I would see my family home just ahead. I leaped the stream like I always did, and suddenly I had to be home. I didn't care what anyone said. I didn't care. I wanted my mother and father. I wanted to lie down in the deep grass of the Scoop and find my old toys and be a child again. And I feel like that just takes you back. It reminds you that this is still like a child, That's
Right. He's not. Even though we all have those feelings as adults from time to time, it is something I feel like we all really felt right when our level of responsibility really shifted. You know what I mean? Like in high school, when things started to become your responsibility, suddenly you spend your years of elementary school and even some middle school wanting to be cool and grown up. And then suddenly it's like time to take tests for college and time to do this. And you're like, can't I just like play... Can't I just play Atari with
Wait a
my
second.
dad?
I thought you were kidding about all that. Come on, that was just a fun joke. We were like, yeah, we'll go to university.
Yeah. Well, it's the same book where was it part 2 or part 1? I think it was part 1 where Loren was like, you and Arbron are going to need to grow up very quickly now. Like he says that to them, and it's not that much longer that this happens, for Elfangor. So
Yeah, they essentially just graduated from like military school.
yeah, yeah,
Which would be maybe high school adjacent, maybe even like 16. Like it's like if you decide to join the military, you do it after middle school and they send you for 2 years of training or something. Like
yeah.
I have no idea how it works, frankly. But
well, I don't know how the Andalite military works, but I'm just like that's what it feels like.
I don't know how the real military works.
You can't join. You can't do that, but you can join when you're 17 and be technically in the military for your last year of school.
Yeah,
I mean. Wesley Crusher was at Starfleet Academy. I think you could go to an academy.
He was a Nepo baby.
Can we talk about the Scoop a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about the Scoop. The bowl dug. Oh, the Scoop? You mean the bowl dug out of the ground by my great-great-grandparents and blended with every delicious variety of grass and flowers? Yeah, I want to talk about the Scoop, and how there's a lodge out of the back, a blueplex awning that covered the south quarter of the Scoop and kept our things out of the rain. Rain?
But just behind the Scoop, in a place it could not possibly be.
Too good to be true.
It was a waterfall.
Fuck.
You can't have a waterfall that close to your Scoop.
No,
That's
not
why
my
we
Scoop.
yawning. Not my Scoop.
Not my Scoop.
Not my
Not
Scoop.
my back Scoop.
And then Elfy starts screaming, "This is not my Scoop!" Actually, I do want to.
Andalite NIMBYs.
This is this just reminded me of this when we're getting this description of Elfy's scoop and how it was dug out of the ground by his great-great-grandparents. Something about the emphasis on the land and also like that it's been in the family for a long time. I'm pretty sure when we hear about Cassie's farm, we hear that it was like, it wasn't her grandparents who bought that farm or like built the barn. It was like her great. It's been in her family for a long time. And something about this description reminds me of that. But anyway, getting back to this waterfall, this incredible waterfall.
A little too incredible.
Yeah.
And he starts to feel a little sick about it. He starts to realize that this is actually the waterfall from that cigarette ad he saw in part 2.
This was not my home, he says. And he starts noticing other things at this moment too, right? Like he notices...
Yeah, I'm sorry. He notices, he basically like wanders into like, it's like where, you know how like states touch and there are corners and you can be in 3 states at once? Yeah, it's like that. It's like you have Pennsylvania, then you have Pennsylvania 2, then you have Pennsylvania 3. I never learned the states, you guys. I'm sorry.
The mountains in Pennsylvania, you have the beaches of New Jersey, and you have...
There you go.
What would be our third one?
Look at this tri-state child of ours.
Beautiful fall foliage of upstate New York.
New York, yes, yes.
Or just the city, yeah.
Or just the city, yeah, and New York City. You have New York City, Philadelphia, and D.C. all touching.
I don't know if I could tell them apart.
You have Milton Hershey,
in New York, basically
Bruce
already
Springsteen, and...
You have Chocolate World. You have City Island.
And Six Flags.
You have Six Flags. All...
So anyway...
I love that I accidentally made a City Island reference as if anybody
as if anybody's
Now they know
gonna know
exactly where we grew up.
where we live. We live on City fucking Island.
That's true. You know, one of those islands in that there river, they filmed they filmed some shit for Viva La Bam there.
Wow.
Oh, well, I know that story because it was, they were trying to skate on 3 Mile Island.
Oh.
They were not allowed.
They were not allowed, so what they did was they skated on a really close by island.
Not really
in the
close
river.
by.
As close as they could get.
Okay, so yes, but this third one, so we have Elfy's World. We have Elfy's World. I don't know what I'm singing there. Elmo's World! Oh. We have Earth, so Loren's world, and then we get a deep red and gold sky, like the red and gold of my own world. Oh no, that's actually just...
So we've got the red and gold sky of the Andalite homeworld. We've got the light blue, fluffy clouds.
And what do we have behind door number 3?
And behind door number 3, which you should always switch. You always switch.
Always switch. Money Hall problem.
Was green. It was green and it
shocking
had some
green.
sort of like ragged lightning bolts, but they always stopped when they hit another patch of sky. And it was in these little jigsaw puzzle fragments like triominoes. Like
Very good.
Now, I have a question. Of those 3, is one of them evil?
I would say that red and gold is ambiguous.
Yes, no,
right? I would say that like red and gold at least is not like it's not like there was blue and even bluer.
Yeah.
And then there was green.
Yeah.
It's like,
No, that's
But
why
the
I thought it
lightning-
was the Yerk world for a second. Yeah.
Yeah, the lightning is concerning. I don't know why there's just random fucking lightning all the
Yeah.
time on the Yerk home.
Only some kind of slug people would have a sky like that. Like,
It is pretty great that like we're finally seeing the Yerk. Oh, have we seen the Yerk world?
No.
No.
This is the first time. Yeah, we're finally seeing the Yerk world, and it's in some weird hallucination.
Technically we're still just guessing. This is Elfangor assuming that that's what he's seeing, that they had somehow done something when they tried to come here.
Yeah.
And he thinks, what have we done?
and what does he hear in the background?
Yeah, he remembers that
I'm gonna make a fucking soundboard of that. You guys disgust me. So that rounds out chapter 36. Now we're on to chapter 37. This chapter is a lot of just descriptions of stuff from, like, the first half is just descriptions of fauna from
the Yurcombe world. Yeah, it starts with he walks into he finds these different patches of land now. It's not just the sky. And he sees a weird red tongue-like thing that comes shooting out of the ground. It sloops. And then, crucially, it slooped. So we've now fully verbed it. We've fully verbed it.
Yeah, we can do anything we want with this verb now.
And he sees it coming out of these little holes. It's like 10 feet long. But then there's this weird animal, and it's
this idiot creature, this idiot lumbering creature.
I want to say, oh my God, hang on, because this is all put a tag on this because I just had a thought. So we're gonna flag this guy because he's lumbering and he's walking around and he has no discernible head.
4 thick legs in the back and 2.
And then 2, he pronates in the front. He turns his little feet in. No discernible head. Nothing to be seen. And the big tongue manages to grab him and drag it over to the hole, but it can't fit it in the hole. And so he just holds it there. And then the animal makes a weird noise, but Elfangor can't figure out how he made the noise because, again, this animal has no head.
Yeah, where is his mouth?
I feel like this tells us a lot about Elfangor's alignment. Because I feel like this is something a DM...
About his hoof alignment?
Like his...
About whether...
the DM would introduce, and it's like, what do you do? And what Elfangor does is he just keeps moving on. Like
just watch it.
Yeah.
True neutral. Yeah,
it's like there's an animal struggling on the ground.
We said we were on our way to town. We're on our way to town.
I keep walking. Like, no, my NPC, my whole quest. Like,
take the bait.
Yeah.
Take the bait.
But then he wanders into a patch of earth, and he's looking for the time matrix, and he realizes when he's on Earth that he could probably find Loren. She's going to be probably on one of these Earth patches, because he spawned on one of these... Spawned is a weird word.
No, I know what you mean. It's a video game.
It's a video game term. He's spawned on an Andalite homeworld tile, so she probably spawned on an Earth tile.
There's a higher probability she would... it's Fortnite.
And so he's going to stop... Well,
they're all flossing.
Did they jump out of the plane at the beginning, or what?
Probably. They were probably unconscious for that part.
He decides he's going to start at the waterfall because it's nice and tall, and so he heads for the waterfall. And then it also occurs to him that with the Yeerk homeworld being here, that Visser 32 probably spawned somewhere on this world as well.
Yeah, and he sure did.
But he goes running across the earth grass, and he thinks it's pretty wonderful. He talks about it traveling up his legs from his hooves, and I'm telling you, it's like celery.
It's a tongue pulling it up into an esophagus.
Maybe many tongues. The whole way up the leg.
Yes, a system of tongues up the leg.
How else does it get up the leg? It needs a little helping hand or a helping tongue.
Oh my God, okay.
Yes, it's a little bucket brigade.
Yeah.
So... Finally, he sees some wood surrounding a pool that is split into 3 different sections.
The pool contains a huge white explosion. The waterfall.
What?
It says.
Oh, the waterfall.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was like, what?
That was an odd way of
That
describing
writing
a
was
waterfall.
weird.
That's all.
Especially when he seems to say that he knows what a waterfall is. Yeah. It's like if you didn't know what a waterfall was, you might say that. But so a third of it is an Andalite pool, a third of it is an earth pool, and a third of it is the Yeerk landscape. And he sees Loren. And he's like, we're here. And he's like, she's like, yeah, but where's here? And he's like, wait, I'll come to you. And I don't know why, but so like he walks over to her. They hug. Mm-hmm. They
hug for a little too long. They become conscious.
Well, actually, specifically, he hugs for a little too long because he says she threw her strong human arms around my shoulders, and even though touching is more of a human thing than an Andalite thing, it wasn't so bad. And then he says,
she released her hold on me, and after a second or two, I realized I should do the same.
Yep, there you go. He's like, he hugs.
Way to read the room, Elfy.
I want to.
He figured it out, though.
When we get this pool that Loren's standing in, just wondering if there's any value judgments here, because we get the familiar Andalite trees filled a third or so. It's like a nice pie. Familiar Andalite trees. Then we get different, but still lovely trees and green grass covered another third. And then
Okay.
there's a dark York landscape. That's another third.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, which one?
A little vague,
All right.
too.
What
We don't
order would you
get-
take the slices of the
right.
pie? Yeah.
So, new idea for a drink for our restaurant, the Time Matrix. Here's how it works. It is a whiskey sour with an olive in it from a martini, and then salt on the rim from a margarita.
Okay.
It's just the worst of all worlds.
I like whiskey
Very
sours.
salty and sour.
I hate whiskey sours. Yeah, very bad. Yeah.
So yes, Loren and Elfy are catching up about where they are.
And she actually has a pretty cool idea. You know, she's already noticed that the sky is weird, right? Because he's like, yes, you know, this should seem familiar. It's from your world. And she's like, yeah, you know, I see that there's like different types of skies. So that's like all the different ones, right? We all did this. This is because of us.
Right. Like Visser 3 had influence over this space, as did I, as did you, and it combined the three worlds. And he condescends, like he
He's so
immediately is like,
shocked.
how did this dumb human idiot figure this out without going to Starfleet Academy?
Constantly surprised
parents-
that she's even paying attention. That she's
Right.
noticing things at all.
But then of course he realizes that to whatever created the time matrix, humans and Andalites are pretty much equally primitive. So he decides, you know, it's like a dad taking his kid to the zoo and he's like, "Why does the tiger have stripes, Daddy?" And the dad's
I
like,
thought that was the dad talking because of how you introed that story.
and the dad's like, "Well, son, why do you think the tiger has stripes?" And Loren's,
I think it's because they rolled around in a bag of markers.
yeah. And Loren smiles just like the little boy would smile, and she goes, "You're asking me? Well, that time machine, the time matrix, or whatever you call it, it's not just like some car you drive through time, like a DeLorean or something. I think to steer it, you have to imagine the place and time where you want to go. I think with three of us each having different ideas of where to go, well, this is the result. Part me, part you, part him."
Who?
And then they realize that Visser 3's over there.
Hiding in the bushes.
Visser 3.
I'm sorry, Visser 32. Visser 32.
Visser 32. Incapable. His name may eventually be Visser 3, but he will never be Visser Third Wheel.
That's
He is
right.
here to spoil the vibe.
The Abomination, we also get him named as.
Yep, he's over in the Yerk zone. That's what we call it. And he's under his own green sky.
Yeah. But he's not
And he has
alone.
these
Yeah.
fucking weird creatures with him. Like
This is wild. Can we make this what the last thing we talked
Yeah,
about
absolutely,
tonight?
absolutely.
Okay, I want to focus on this because I've been waiting for this moment apparently my entire life.
So we saw that creature with the four sturdy legs and two weird legs and no
Yeah,
head.
built the way God intended.
And now we
A
see
godly creature.
there's Visser 32, and it says, "On either side of him stood a creature like nothing I had ever seen or imagined. They were each about 3 feet tall and 4.5 feet long."
Okay.
So they're like really tiny. They're go-karts. They're fucking like in terms of
Now,
size. Let's start there.
Okay, yeah.
3 feet tall and 4.5 feet long would be a pretty big
That's
dog.
big.
Yeah.
Pretty
It's
big,
big.
dog.
But Chris,
They
you're jumping
were
to go-karts,
mostly-
and that can't. I'm just confused by that.
No, I'm sorry. That was a Freudian. That was a
Go-karts have
Freudian slip.
wheels, and yeah.
Yeah.
so.
They were
Yeah,
mostly
that's not reasonable. I don't know why I picked that.
they were mostly a dark, dirty yellow with irregular black spots.
Okay.
But
Kind of
that-
like a taxi.
Like,
You know? when
yeah,
you
a
think
taxi
about
or
it.
something.
I don't know.
sickly.
Again, I should pick something maybe like a leopard with legs, but let's move
Yeah.
on.
But the head and shoulders were the deep red of the Yerk plants.
Mm-hmm.
The heads were
Ah.
tiny for their bodies, elongated, almost needle sharp.
Mm.
Their mouths were long and narrow. Hundreds of tiny bright red teeth stuck out, jagged and wildly
Now,
different
when
in
you
length and
mentioned
shape.
the elongated and needle sharpness of the creature, it reminds me of the Jahar.
Ooh, yeah,
Yes, I'm turned on right now. You're right.
Okay. So, but what struck me as strangest was that the creature did not have legs in the usual sense.
Oh.
How do you mean?
They had wheels.
Oh.
I'll entertain this for a sentence
Yes,
further.
wheels. 4 of them to be exact.
Okay.
The wheels were located where the legs should be.
Oh.
Each was sloppy and irregular in shape, not perfectly round.
How?
But it was easy to see that the wheels were for real.
I am rubbing my temples.
There was mud and dirt all around them, and when I strained my eyes, when I strained my stock eyes, I could even see where the creatures had left tracks in the dirt.
At first, when I was
Wheel
reading
tracks.
this, I thought he had hallucinated the Mustang into the Time Matrix world. Like,
was
that's
yellow.
what I thought. Yes! I was like, why? Like,
Miranda,
why? But
could you take this just a little bit further? Because I need to know what energy is Visser 32 giving off as he brings these new characters into the scene?
Well, you know what? It's funny you should ask that, Ed. He actually gave a jaunty wave.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he's up top, he's a jaunt. Down below, he's all
And
date.
That's right.
And I think they've been kind of playing it coy. Is this Visser 3? Is Visser 32 seems a lot like Visser 3, but we now
That's
know.
true.
It sure feels
This
like, but
is-
we just don't know for
we
sure.
didn't.
Like, what
But
if...
the jaunty wave, I think.
I think the jaunty wave seals it.
Yeah.
What if something hits Loren in the head, this yerk flies out, and another one crawls in? We
That's
just
true.
don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
He says he introduces us to his pets. This is Jerix and Larix.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it so
He
much.
brought his pet since Elfangor is bringing his pet human,
Yeah.
and just wow, just
Can we just talk
We have to slow down.
about...
yeah.
Yes. We're going a mile a minute here like we
As-
have wheels for legs.
as Elfangor says. I can't imagine what evolutionary path would conceivably have created a creature with wheels. That is a line from this book.
It's like all I can imagine. And human joints are the saddest part of the human body, right? Like they're the part that deteriorates, that you're like, arthritis sucks, blah, blah, blah. The idea of fleshy bearings and the idea of just a fleshy axle and a fleshy wheel. And
So
like
it's like,
a
it could all
like-
be bone. It could be bone with some cartilage. You know what I mean?
But
Some-
my God, the friction involved. Just the endless reciprocal friction. But
Chris, I think
do they usually have tires? Do you think? But they're weird and
They're
irregularly
called
shaped.
socks.
Why
They're
aren't
called
they? They're socks.
Yeah. And you're
Yes,
missing an
they're-
important thing, which is that they're cool. They're cool. Now, I think you missed the part where it said they were mostly a dark, dirty yellow with irregular black spots. The thing that came to your mind, Chris, was a taxi.
Taxi, that is
It's cool.
right. From the movies. It is cool. You're right. Taxis are
Yeah.
cool.
I just can't live with this.
Why?
I
Do you know
can't
what
either.
I realized? I think I can explain these creatures, Jerix and Larix. Okay. I think this is... The 90s were an era of toys, I feel like. It was a
That's
time
true,
of
that's
toys
true.
and Transformers.
reasonable.
And I think
Yep.
they were just already imagining... Star Wars, I think, George Lucas, when he pitched the movies, he slipped into the contract that he would get control. And I think he got all proceeds from the sale of toys that came out of the movies, right?
Wow.
Smart.
And I kind of feel like K.A. Applegate was like, they could make toys of these.
They
Like,
could make toys of this.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking there's this line in Poor Unfortunate Souls. Right at the end, Ursula leans over to her eels, who are her pets and henchmen, and she goes, "Flotsam jetsam, now she's got 'em, boys. The boss is on a roll." And now we've got Jerix and Larix,
Yeah.
two rhyming
Who literally
henchmen,
roll.
and they're literally
that's
on a roll.
true.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Now,
true.
Jerix
There
and
you go.
Larix, are they Visser 32's childhood pets, do we think?
I don't know if they're childhood. Well, so he'll go. Hang on, he'll
How
go
would a
on
Yerk
to
have a
talk about
pet?
it a little bit. He does say
How would-
they're his
how-
pets.
How would a yerk walk these dogs?
Okay, you're being a little too
Like,
reasonable
does it
right
climb
now,
up
Chris.
on its back and ride them?
So maybe
So
not
is
a
there, like-
childhood pet, but
Is it like draping an earthworm on a chihuahua?
the fact that these places are built out of memory, right? Like it feels like he has some emotional. Where did
No, yeah, I
Jerix
guess-
and Larix come from? That's what I'm.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. All right. So let's
Okay.
go through it a little bit. All right. So Loren does some back talk. She blah blah blahs him
throws
when
a
he
rock.
starts to do his whole thing. He's like, we're gonna
Right.
take over your planet. You're all gonna be slaves. She goes blah blah blah. They don't know what it means, but they just roll with it. And she says, you do a lot of talking for a slug. You think I'm scared of you? And he says, yes, I know you are. And she just cries. No, she doesn't say anything, but she reaches into the lake in front of her and she picks up a rock and she softball pitches it into Visser 32's face. And they are so baffled by this series of events. And because he's just like, ah! And fucking Elfie's like, what do you call that? And she's like, it's a softball pitch. I pitched for Frank's Pro Shop Twins. And I'm like, All City 2 years in a row. And
yeah, it's pretty
got tough
amazing.
guy
He's
energy.
Especially because, like, a couple paragraphs ago, they were like, she recognized softball fields from her world.
She did, yeah.
So she looked at the environment and was like, oh,
Yeah.
I have the perfect group for this.
And Elfangor's like, so softball is a game where you hit people in the face with rocks. She's like, sometimes, but
not usually. She says not usually, which I think is a perfect
it is.
line.
Visser 3 has the most, I don't know, horribly translated somehow response. He goes, so you propel rocks at me. You'll be very sorry you ever propelled a rock at me, human.
Jerix!
You know what?
Lyrics! Attack!
I'm not gonna lie, I have missed that sentence every time I've read this book. I think something in my brain shuts off with how unbelievably silly it is.
Why would we not know the word throw is all that I'm asking. I know that Andalites have weak arms, but like, why would we not know the word throw?
Yeah. Well, so
Jerix
but
and
I feel like the fact that Loren has like, I feel like she has like this like tough guy energy to me here, and
she does. She plays softball.
plays softball. And Visser 3 is he's just himself. Visser 32, I'm sorry. Like he feels like such something about Loren throwing the rock at him just reminds me of someone bullying. Like
bullying a nerd,
nerdy boy
bullying
on
the theater kid. Yeah, no, for
bullying
sure.
the theater kid, and
Yeah, and we hate that here at Anidorks.
We do.
Because frankly, I've never had a rock thrown at me, but if I did, I would have died.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to respond, and I certainly wouldn't have had two pets to sick on my attack.
like I feel like
Come forth, my burly protectors!
Visser 32, one of like his glasses get broken when she throws the rock at him. Like that's just how I imagine it. So.
It almost hits
Yes,
his eye. You're
yeah.
right. It does almost hit his eye.
Incidentally, Andalite glasses, 8 eyes? Is that right?
Or do you only have them for
'Cause-
your main eyes? Oh my god, 4 different eyes, 4 different strengths. You'd need contacts, I think.
I bet you glasses makers are rich.
Well, because the stalk eyes are the
Contacts.
dominant eyes, right? Didn't we hear that?
Right. No, I think the main
They call
eyes are
the they call the ones on their head their main eyes.
Oh,
so.
okay. Yeah,
I don't think you're firing a bow and arrow with the
that's
stalk
true. Yeah,
eyes.
yeah. We do,
But, so-
something important here. Yeah, Miranda, take this when we learn about the
We learn where
Jerix.
and Lyrics came from because as they charge across with their little biological wheels that Elfangor just can't look away from, he says, "You admire my pets, Andalite.
He's narrating.
They are a Yes, this is Dr. 3.
Yeah.
Visser 32.
Also known as
Three.
Dr. 3.
You admire my pets, Andalite? They are a species called Mortons. As a young lieutenant, I went on a survey party to a world that was later destroyed when its sun went nova. We thought we might be able to make controllers of these Mortons, but that didn't work out. Their brains are simply too tiny to accommodate us.
Wow.
Instead, I brought 2 of them home as pets. So that's how he got them. He got Jerix and Lyrics as a young lieutenant. But, all right, so we put a pin in the creature we saw before with the no head.
Right.
And we've now got all the way back to book 2.
Yep.
It has something to do with the size of the
Size
head.
of the head. That's exactly right.
So,
Yes.
I'm thinking, right, so these aren't native to the Yercombe world, but unfortunately their heads were too small anyway, so they couldn't use them. But that other creature was. So
Right.
the Geds may have genuinely been the only creatures
Wow.
either with heads or with correctly sized heads on their
Yes.
planet that they could
Yeah,
can we
yeah.
use.
Just in case like a listener isn't following along, what happened in book 2 that we're calling back to?
Oh, right. So in book 2, first of all, I think one of the episodes was called "The Size of the Head Seems to Be Important."
Yeah.
But
That's true.
so in book 2, he mentions cats. He's like, it's a shame we can't use them as controllers. Visser 3 does when he sees a cat. And so I was like, wow, that's so weird. I wonder why he said that. And then he morphed this weird creature, right? It was huge, but then its head was actually like kind of normal sized. Not small, but like small for the size of thing that he was. And so I had this idea that Yeerks can only actually use brains that fit their size within a certain range. And this is the first time we have had any confirmation that that is true.
But it does seem to confirm it, yeah?
At the very least, they can't use brains that are too small. I don't know yet if they can't use brains that are too big.
Yeah.
But
Could be the ear canals, too.
Yeah, that's
it could
true.
Be we don't know. It could be a mechanical issue.
Yeah. So I like imagining right now. So he tells Jerix and Larix to attack. They turn their wheels sluggishly at first, but they pick up speed. Elfy is frozen. He's so fascinated watching these biological wheels. It was truly incredible, he says. And Visser 32 launches into this explanation. He loves to explain things. He loves to explain
He really
what
does.
he's doing
Yeah,
as
he's
he's
a
doing.
teacher.
He is.
Yeah.
He's a teacher.
He's a
That's why
teacher
he
at
works
his
at a
core.
summer camp in our imagined
Yes.
future.
yes. Yes.
Yes.
He is explaining this. What are Jerix and Larix doing? Well, are they just kicking up dirt in a way that looks cool and intimidating, maybe? Like,
Well, they're coming. They're coming, right? So
They're
they're
coming
picking
around
up
the
speed,
circumference of the
and they
pond,
make an
yeah.
interesting noise. They go, which I just can't understand. Right? Is it the wheels? Is it are they just breathing
Yeah.
heavily? I think
they're already out of breath.
They're out of breath.
they're working so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. And there's no upstroke. There's no rest. It's just motion.
Yeah.
It's like,
And so I think it raises the question, are the Mortons cute?
Oh yeah.
No.
Like,
No, I agree,
Okay, so
Miranda.
first of all, no. Here's the thing, right?
No, not
they're
cute at
not
all.
physically cute. They are however, like so pitiable that they are cute. I don't know that these words are actually like related, but so like in Japanese, the word for cute is kawaii, and
Of course.
the word for like pitiful is kawaiso, and like. I don't know. They just seem so similar to me that I feel like, and like I said, I've done zero research. The etymology could be completely unrelated,
we all know that cute is tragedy plus time.
right?
We
but
know
like,
that's
I
true.
feel like think about it this way: like a cat that's that's really small, that's too small, right? Like that's cute on its own, right? But how much cuter is it when it can't get up the stairs?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and sometimes it says huff, 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 huff.
Right? Yeah. Like, and so,
least my
like, if
cat
you
does.
saw some sort of absolute monster,
Yeah.
but it was just like this little guy working so hard and he couldn't do any of the
Sure.
things he wanted to.
And maybe what I'm about to say is cuter than I realize, but these things sound like a fucking battle bot wrapped in shag carpeting.
Oh my
and it
God.
sounds weird as shit to me. I can't. Maybe it would
No, wait,
be
Chris,
cute.
just
'cause
one
a
more time. What
Roomba
sound does it
wrapped-
make, though? Yeah, it's cute. You see, once you do that, it becomes
Yeah.
cute. So,
You're saying I'm cute when I make that sound, and you're right. But
or your lyrics.
yes. of
So
course. And
we
you're
get another tail to tail comment because
Yeah, why aren't you just battling me tail to tail like I asked in my profile?
But Elfy is actually still worried that he doesn't know that he would win in a tail fight, but he's certain he can defeat the Mortons, who continue to huff, 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 huff. And he's watching them, and he's vaguely hoping that maybe they actually can't leave the Yeerk land
area.
He has
He's like, oh yeah.
He has
there's-
no
yeah,
real reason
yeah.
to believe that because he can walk onto the Earth stuff, so there's no real reason. But they are constructs, like they're not real, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
They were brought here through the imagination, so maybe they won't work. They do, and then
They totally work.
Would you go so
made-
far as to say that their art, their Visser 32,
Ooh,
they're a
living
creation of his?
Wow.
They're sculptures, they're living
Yeah.
sculptures.
Wow. Except, they have a use, which is kicking Andalite ass.
That's true.
So-
Because as they approach, it goes huff, 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 screech, and suddenly the creatures each split into two parts. The bottom portion, the yellow part with the wheels, swerved away, just like does a hard stop, you know. The dark red upper portion simply rose from the body, unfolded leather wings I'd never even suspected, and flew straight at me.
So I got a little ahead of myself before. This is why I think they were influenced by toys in the 90s, because this is something that...
Two-stage.
Yes,
Yeah,
two-stage
two
toys.
stages.
Even the Animorphs themselves, the show actually, had a Transformer action figure. Like,
Right.
you can't tell me this isn't like...
Oh, it's a perfect two-stage toy.
Yeah.
Oh, you're absolutely right. No, you're totally right about that. But what is immediately confusing to me is Visser 32 comes back and it says, "Ha ha! Kill Jerix! Kill Larix! Kill the Andalite!" What the hell is he calling Jerix and Larix anymore? There's 4 things happening
Yeah,
now.
that does imply a certain interesting, like, are they symbiotic, or is it actually one creature that can
But
separate from part of its
no,
body?
It gets more and more starfishy.
It's about
the
to get
we
more complicated. Yeah, as we'll
because
see.
our hero Elfy goes to work with his Cutco knife of a tail and cuts through one of them, and it splits again and continues the attack.
Well, so here's the thing. It falls apart, he gets the other one, and then as they look at them, they're growing back into full Mortrons.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah.
So they're just
It doesn't
reassembling?
continue the attack. He thinks he kills it. It hits the ground in 2 pieces. He
But that
gets
means
the
that
second
they're going to
one.
be able to split again.
Yes,
like,
in fact,
there's just
let me quote Visser 32 for you.
please do.
Are you doing the math in your head, Elfangor? They regenerate. He did jeer. Cut an attacking Mortron in pieces, and each piece grows again to become a complete Mortron. It's the killing frenzy. It gives an enzyme boost that makes them regenerate. Try to kill these 4 and you'll have 8. Kill those 8 and you'll have 16, 32, 64.
Is his problem, maybe his fatal flaw as an artist, he doesn't know the rule, show don't tell. He can't help but tell. He can't help it, and it's...
Yeah, somebody told him it was a
Yeah.
book, and he was like,
It's very funny. I love this idea that there's some enzyme that's capable of fully regenerating you into 2 different sentient creatures.
that then again has enough enzyme to do it again
And then,
again.
and now
The only
comes the
problem-
question, who is he calling Jerix and Larix?
Right.
How many Jerixes and Larixes have
Jerixes
there
and
been?
Larixes attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. The one thing that is true is the reality is that he'll succumb to growing tired of cutting them in half long before these infinite beings get to the number 64. Like, you're telling
Yeah.
me he's going to slice them in half 64 times?
I think they're going to
But
have to
so-
run. I think that's what they're...
Yeah, they gotta run, but the problem is Elfangor
Are
could
you saying
outrun
we should
them.
change the ending of the book? Because it says here that they just die and succumb to Jerix and Larix.
So Elfangor,
All right, let's role play this. Let's see how this goes.
Elfangor could outrun them,
Yeah?
but
Okay, so what are you suggesting?
but
Like, what's
Lauren
Loren gonna
probably
do?
can't.
No, so she
Yeah.
should... Maybe...
okay.
I know we haven't seen this... in
Maybe Elfangor should hop on Lauren's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, she can give him a piggyback ride.
Yeah, and there will be like 4 little hoof legs sticking out.
So she asks, "How strong is your back?" And don't be offended, okay? And he's like, "What?" And she's like, "I'm gonna try something." She puts one hand on the back of his neck, his upright neck, not like,
Oh my god.
and then the other hand right on his rump, right at the base of his tail. And she swings her leg over. This is the most interesting part to me, and this is what this brings me back to Andalite truth. The Andalites don't actually have
a
full
torso.
human torsos, because
Yeah.
it says she sat there with one human leg hanging off either side of my back and held her hands clasped around my neck. And if you were riding a centaur, would you, and I'm asking you each personally, wrap your hands around their throat Or would you wrap your hands around their waist like you were on a motorcycle?
Depends on what my dynamic is with the centaur.
It's a kink thing for sure. Yeah, it would have to be negotiated beforehand. We'd have to see if everybody's up for it. But no, you're absolutely right. And we've fucking climbed the holy mountain, you guys. Like, we've been reading these books for 8 years now, and we finally did it. We're finally riding a fucking animal.
I distinctly remember a description of Axe that said that his back was sloped down in such a way that you would never think of riding it.
Yeah, but they weren't anticipating it. Jerix and Larix and one of them.
That's true.
The killing frenzy. They weren't anticipating the killing frenzy.
Maybe whoever was saying that just meant you wouldn't think of riding it recreationally.
Yes.
Right? It would have to be like a pretty dire situation.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just think they were trying to keep us under control. They were trying to keep
I think Marco's problem is
it's
not that he looks at Axe and he thinks, sure, this is not the most accessible animal to ride, but surely there is a way that I could do it, you know? Yeah. So it's a problem that needs to be solved and more.
Like I said earlier, if you want to see what emojis I use to describe my elation when this moment finally came to fruition, you can subscribe to our Patreon at the $3 tier.
Anyway, Elfanger's pretty shocked, but when he sees the Mortons start coming for him again, Loren's like, not time to think, we gotta run.
He's a total sub.
So they run.
Elfy's a sub.
Okay, noted.
He's a bottom.
That's not necessarily the same thing, but I do agree.
Related.
But Loren shouts, Elfanger, this is not the time to think! Run! And they take off.
So I did, with the human girl actually on my back. I
Total
ran.
sub.
Okay.
And this
is a book full
where
of
the
subs.
book ends.
Everybody in this book is a sub.
To our Patreon.
Oh.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, every character in this book personally subscribed. They actually really support what we're doing, and it would mean a lot to them if you could.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, just as a side note, we really do appreciate
We appreciate absolutely everything,
yeah.
and we don't say it enough because we're awkward and we don't know how to say it without just crying.
If our Patreons want us to top, we can try. No, I'm just...
Yeah, I'm a bottom, but I'm like a capitalist verse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if money's involved, I'll do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We haven't troubled that relationship at all.
All right, let's leave before we have to meet Loren's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially after all that dirty shit I just said. God, our mom's listening to this
I'm
podcast.
hoping some of that...
I gotta brush my teeth before Christmas.
You used to brush your teeth every episode.
You did?
That's what it is.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon!